Hi guys, this is Maha, your English language teacher, IELTS trainer, and CELPIP instructor. So today what I wanted to do was go over the CELPIP study pack that you can easily get at celpip.ca. And in this study pack, I am going to go over the CELPIP test. I know there's a lot of people who are taking this test these days, and you can usually get a lot of practice material once you have signed up for the exam and you have a date. But before that, you would want to know what this test is all about and what kind of questions they ask. Now, similar to IELTS, CELPIP also tests for main skills, which is listening. There is the reading, writing, and speaking. So four skills, just like how it happens in IELTS. Now, in this study pack, like I mentioned, we're going to go over the four skills and what kind of questions they would be asking you. So let's go straight at it. Now, this is your listening test overview. You can see it's got 6 parts to it. The first one is always unscored and it's a practice test. And before you begin your test, you will be asked to check your headphones and your microphone as well for speaking. This test would take about 47 to 55 minutes to complete. So if you are a good listener and are able to answer the questions, then you will be done in about 47 minutes, maybe 45 even, or the maximum time they will give you about is 55 minutes. And this is the first part of your CELPIP test. So your CELPIP test begins with listening. So the first part, or part 1, of this test is the listening to problem solving. It is 8 questions and they give you about 8 minutes for that. Part 2 is listening to a daily life conversation, 5 questions in 5 minutes. So that's a minute per question. Part 3 is listening for information, 6 questions in 6 minutes. Part 4 is listening to a news item, 5 minutes and 5 questions. Part 5 is listening to a discussion, 8 questions and 9 minutes. Part 6 is listening for viewpoints. It's going to be 6 questions that you have to do in 8 minutes. Now, if you notice, part 6 is 6 questions, but they're giving you 8 minutes to complete the task, or the questions rather. All right, so this is how the scoring happens. Now, as in IELTS, you have the maximum band score that you can achieve is 9, whereas in CELPIP, the max you can get is 12. So anything between 10 and 12 is considered the highest. Now, to achieve a 10 to 12 band score, you have to have 35 to 38 questions correct. If you want to get an 8, for instance, then you need to make sure that you get 30 to 33 questions correct out of the total. All right, so there are 38 scored questions on the listening test. Each correct answer receives 1 point. There may be one unscored part. If so, you will not know which part is unscored. So you have a practice test, a practice question, and then also from all the other questions, there would be one which they're not going to score you for, but they won't tell you which one it is. Points are not deducted for incorrect answers. Always answer every question. So make sure that if you are not able to guess the correct answer and you have no idea what the answer is, just click on anything that you feel is the best answer, because even if you make a mistake, the point will not be deducted. The listening test is a computer scored test, so there's nobody physically listening or checking your answer. So once you click in the correct answer, it will get noted and your mark will be calculated by the computer. Your CELPIP level is calculated by the computer based on the number of points and the difficulty level of the question. All right, so score equating ensures fairness. Listening test format. So the questions for each listening part come after the audio. So you will listen to an audio and then you will get the question. For each question, choose the best answer from 4 options. Each question has 1 correct answer. So they're not going to give you two answers for a question. In each listening part, you can change your answers as much as you like until the time for that question section is up. So because they give you a minute to answer a question, maybe about 20 seconds for you to listen to an audio, you have roughly about 30 to 40 seconds to answer. Now, because they have different choices, you can click one and go like, okay, this is not the correct one, and then go for the other one. When your time is up, the test will automatically move forward to the next screen. You cannot go back to a previous part of the test. So make sure that you are answering the question, because there's no back button on that screen to go to the previous question. The audio passages and questions increase in difficulty from parts 1 to 6. So 1 is going to be the easiest and part 6 is going to be the toughest. Audio features. All speakers use English as a native language and have Canadian accents. So anybody that you listen to will speak like a Canadian. So they would have a Canadian accent, and they're all going to be native speakers of the language. For all conversations with two speakers, one is female and one is male. All audio clips are played one time only. You cannot listen to the audio clip more than once. Audio clips begin automatically and cannot be paused. So make sure that you are listening attentively and carefully, and that you are making notes at the same time. So here are some strategies for note taking. These are your tips and strategies. So first, you will receive paper and a pen at the test center. Ask for more paper if you feel you need it. Do not be shy. If you feel you've run out of space on the paper, just raise your hand and ask for the paper. Now don't scream out and say, hey, I need a paper. No, just raise your hand and somebody will come to you and hand you over the paper. Taking notes is beneficial no matter what your English level is. So you could be at a band score of 11. It's always the best idea to take notes, because you do not want to forget what the speakers are saying. Organize your notes in a sequence. The questions will come in roughly the same order as the answers appeared in the audio. So when you're listening to an audio clip, so it's going to be like a little voice note, like a short audio clip. As you're listening, make sure that your notes are organized. Don't write them all over the paper, because if you write them all over the paper, you then cannot find the answer. So, either write 1, 2, 3, put bullet points, make circles, whatever you have to make sure that your ideas and your notes are organized. You may want to arrange your notes differently for different types of audio. So depending on, again, what type of an audio it is that you're listening to, for whatever question it is, you can make your notes differently. Use point, form, and abbreviation. So if you've heard a big word, don't write the full word. Write a short form that you can understand. Your notes will have no impact on your score. So nobody's going to check your notes or, ask you to submit them. Practice note taking before the test so you know which strategies work for you. Use a pen and a paper. Typing on a keyboard or screen is not the same experience. So when you're practicing how to take notes, always keep a pen and a paper with you. Now we're going to look at the question types. You will answer 3 different kinds of questions on the listening test. These same 3 types also appear in the reading test. So these are the 3 types of questions that you will get in the listening and in the reading as well. So now we're going to look at the question types. A general meaning. They're looking for a big picture. So a big picture question that asks you to put together ideas from a larger section of the conversation. Several sentences, more than one person's thoughts, or the whole clip. All right. Example, the 2 speakers are talking about, they could be talking about their weekend, they could be talking about a new job, they could be talking about a movie, they could be talking about some sort of, maybe an entertainment, or a dinner that they went to, or an evening they spent with family, a holiday, it could be anything. The three speakers all agree that. Now, when you have those three speakers, two of them might not agree on the same point. Now, if let's say they're talking about setting up an event at a banquet hall, so there will be two speakers um, that are having a very polite argument, and the third one is giving their viewpoints, and at the end they're all three are going to decide and agree on whatever they've decided. Okay, and that's the information that you want here. Question number two, or the type of question, the second type of question is specific information. It's a close-up question that asks for one piece of information, such as a date, name, place, or fact that a speaker mentioned in one specific place in the audio clip. So you have to make sure that any dates, any names, any places, or any important facts that you hear, you note them down. For example, the man offers the woman, I don't know, the man offers the woman a ride, okay? Or the man offers the woman a job, or the man offers the woman a discount. The woman's job is, maybe she's a salesperson, maybe she's a teacher, maybe she's a doctor, maybe she's an architect. So make sure you have that information with you. Peter, the man on the left, can't attend the conference because maybe he's busy, because he's out of town, maybe he wasn't invited, or he doesn't have the money. So that's an example for you to remember. Inference. A question that asks you to use information from the audio clip to draw a conclusion about something that was not stated directly. So now this particular type of question, a lot of students struggle because they're looking for straight answers. But what CELPIP wants you to do is, or they want to know rather from you, is can you understand a conversation? So sometimes some things are not said directly, but just the way the conversation is going, you understand the gist of it, that okay, which side is it leaning on most, okay? So for instance, a speaker's feelings about the situation or what will happen next. If you hear words like, oh, I'm not really comfortable with going out in the evening, the question might be, hey, is he going to go out? The answer is no, he's not, because he's not comfortable. All right. Here are some examples. The man sounds something about next week's work schedule. Now, he could sound very excited. He could sound very, depressed. He could sound very, unhappy or frustrated, anything of that sort. So emotions, right? Miss Wilson will probably dash tonight. So Miss Wilson will probably go out tonight. Miss Wilson will probably read a book tonight, or anything like that. Dr. Jenkins would most likely agree with Larry that it's going to be a bad winter. Or Dr. Jenkins would most likely agree with Larry that they need to take the treatment very seriously. Now, when you're answering questions on a practice test or on the real test, you may find it helpful to think about what type of question it is. It is often possible to identify the question type based on its topic and or its wording. For example, general meaning questions often refer to the whole audio clip or a large section of it. Inference questions often include expressions of probability, like probably, the most likely. Inference questions may also refer to a speaker's feelings or attitude, which tend to be communicated indirectly through tone of voice and body language. So you will basically feel the sense of whatever the speaker is trying to make you understand. These are some very useful CELPIP listening skills. All right, so taking notes, we spoke about it. It's very helpful to take notes both during audio passages and in parts 1 to 3 when questions are read. The note-taking strategies listed on the page, whatever number it is, above were covered in most detail in the listening pro session you attended. You may want to review, okay, if you have attended that, okay? Next one is identifying the opinions. So not only in part 6, which is listening for viewpoints, but in many parts of the listening test, it will be helpful to identify each of the main opinions presented in the audio. How does each speaker feel about the situation and why? How are the speaker's opinions similar to and different from one another? So make sure that you're writing notes for how the speakers feel, and how are their, and why do they feel in a certain manner, okay? Determining meaning from context. As you work through the listening test, you will likely encounter words you haven't seen or heard before. That's okay. We don't know all the words in the language. So don't get nervous. Building your vocabulary is a very important part of improving your English abilities. Make sure that at least a month before or 2 months before your CELPIP test, you start reading and listening to a lot of English text, conversations, news articles, news reports, business reports, whatever it is, so that your level of understanding the language also increases, and so does your vocabulary. Something to work on actively as you prepare for CELPIP. Okay, if you encounter a new word on the test, what do? You won't be able to look it up, that's for sure. So the ability to figure out what it might mean by considering its context is a useful skill. So sometimes you find a word, or you come across a word that you're not familiar with. So read that sentence or a statement again and try to figure out what the meaning could be. Even if you aren't sure of the exact meaning, identifying its parts of speech, for instance, is it a noun, a verb, an adjective, an adverb, and whether it has a positive or a negative meaning, can help you draw conclusions when listening to the audio and considering answer choices. Okay? Then you have to identify the tone. To be able to identify the tone, tone is the attitude or emotional feeling a speaker communicates. For example, is he or she excited, nervous, frustrated, relieved about the situation under discussion? Does he or she agree, partially agree, or disagree with the other speakers? Speakers in the listening test often won't express their feelings directly. For example, I'm so frustrated right now. Most of the time, they'll express themselves indirectly. For example, I can't believe my bus is late again. So, I can't believe my bus is late again is similar to I'm frustrated now, but they're not going to say I'm frustrated right now or I'm frustrated because of. They're just going to say I can't believe my bus is late again. So you have to make sure that you understand the way a person speaks and what they're trying to say. All right. Most of the time, they'll express themselves indirectly. For example, I can't believe my bus is, oh, we did this again. Okay, sorry. Or there's no way I'll be able to finish all this homework by 5. So if someone's saying there's no way I will be able to finish this homework by 5, that means they are frustrated, they're getting anxious, they're feeling under pressure, or they're not happy, right? The speaker's intonation and word stress will help to indicate tone. And in part 5, body language will provide additional clues. So in part 5, you will be watching and listening at the same time. Being able to hear emotion in speakers' voices will help you to understand the parts of the listening test where multiple speakers have a conversation. Next one is identifying and anticipating paraphrase, sorry. You should never expect the correct answer choice or any answer choice to be stated in the exact same words that were said in the audio clip. In all parts of the listening test, you will encounter words and phrases in the question and answer choices that paraphrase something stated in the text. Now, what is paraphrase? I'm sure most of you know the meaning of paraphrase, but if you don't, I would like you to comment below and tell me what you think the word paraphrase means. Even if you know, you can write it down, okay? Um, they've already given you the answer, so I'm going to quickly skip that so that you are able to comment. Okay. So here it says, I was so tired from my night shift that I had a hard time staying awake while my math professor was lecturing. The correct answer choice might read, Abby almost fell asleep during her class. Okay, I was so tired from my night shift that I had a hard time staying awake while my math professor was lecturing. And the correct answer is, Abby almost fell asleep during her class. Now, we don't know if she slept or not, but she almost did because she was trying very hard to stay awake. Both sentences communicate the same idea, even though the words are very different, and the first version includes more detail. All right, so this was your listening, and we're just going to look at parts 1 and 3. So questions format in parts 1 to 3. You will have multiple choice questions. You will hear the questions, read the 4 answer choices. Questions appear one by one, so you're not going to have a whole page full of questions, but they're going to appear one by one. You will get 30 seconds to hear and answer each question. Must answer questions in the order presented, okay? Because you will see one question and the answer, so you cannot obviously jump to the next question. Do not jump to the next question, or else you're going to be not getting a mark at all. So it's about 8 minutes to listen to the audio and answer 8 questions. 2 speakers, 1 man, 1 woman. A conversation is broken into 3 sections of audio. Each audio section is about 1 to 1.5 minutes long. After each audio section, 2 to 3 questions about that section. 30 seconds to hear and answer each question. Here are some examples of the audio. Okay, so 2 co-workers discussing a problem. One of them is having a home, or a customer asking a cashier for help with a return or a purchase. The tone or the level of formality. Conversational, relatively informal, and very polite. I just added the word very polite because that's how we all speak here, very politely. Also helpful, one speaker wants to help the other with a problem. The speakers don't know each other, okay? Part 2, listening to a daily life conversation, 5 minutes long. You got 5 minutes to listen and answer about 5 questions. There will be 2 speakers, 1 man and a woman, 1 audio clip about 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes long, and 30 seconds to hear and answer each question. Examples: co-workers talking about the project they're working on, sports team members preparing for a game, a husband and wife making plans for the weekend. The type of tone and the level of formality, it's again, it's the conversation, so it's going to be relatively informal, and it is going to be polite. Nobody's going to be screaming and shouting. It's not going to be too casual or too personal, and the speakers know each other in this type of the question. All right, number 3 is listening for information. When you're listening for information, this is about 6 minutes long and has 6 questions. There would be 2 speakers, 1 man and a woman, 1 audio clip about 2 to 2.5 minutes long, 30 seconds to hear and answer each question. Examples: a customer buying a new car from a salesman, an experienced employee explaining a procedure to a new co-worker, a parent looking to rent decorations from a party store for a child's birthday. The tone is going to be polite, informal to somewhat formal. The reason why somewhat formal is because when you're talking to a salesman and you're a customer, or the other way around, you're not chit-chatting about everything in the world. So you're trying to keep it formal because it is a business deal. And when you're speaking to a co-worker, you're also being formal, not very casual, but you keep the politeness going, okay? Key strategies for parts 1 to 3. So before listening, make sure that you have set up notes before the audio starts. Read the introductory statement for the context clues. When you're listening, identify the topic of the conversation. What are they talking about? Is there a problem? What is the problem? What solutions are offered and which one is chosen? This is very important. Then, does one speaker want information? Yes or no? And what kind of information? And why do they want this information? Use voice clues to determine the speaker's attitudes and opinions. Taking notes is in a logical order. Imagine the scene in your mind. So as they're speaking, try to imagine the whole scene in your head, okay? That makes it easier for you to remember. Try to focus on what you understand and not what you don't. So if you understand something, focus on that and don't think about, oh, what did he just say? I didn't get that. After listening, note down keywords in the questions. Listening parts 4 to 6. Sentence completion questions. Read the questions and the 4 answer choices. All questions appear on the same screen. Set amount of time to answer all questions on screen. Can answer questions in any order. The examples. So it's going to be one speaker, one audio clip about 1.5 minutes long, 5 questions, and you have about 5 answers. Some of the examples for this type of listening to a news item is a local event where something unexpected happened, a new technology and how it can help people, an interesting encounter with animals. It's going to be formal, factual, descriptive, like a radio or a TV news report, just like that. Before listening, set up your notes before the audio starts. Read the introductory statement for context clues. While you're listening, listen for detail about who, what, when, where, and why. Take note of people's last names. In the news stories, a person is introduced by their full name and then referred to by their last name. Keep your notes very organized. After listening, be aware of the time as you answer questions. Please make sure that you're looking at the time, all right? Answer questions you feel confident about first. Part 5 of the listening. This is listening to a discussion. You're going to have 3 speakers, 1 video clip about 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes long. There will be 8 questions and about 9 minutes to watch. Well, 9 minutes to watch the video and answer, and you have about 8 questions in total. So out of this, let's say 2 minutes are for the video, so you're left with 6 minutes for 8 questions. All right. Here are some examples of the type of video that you might be given. So teammates discussing where and when to hold a tournament. Neighbors planning a block party. Classmates discussing who will complete which part of a group project. So it's relatively informal. It includes facts, opinions, and emotions. Speakers will sometimes disagree about things, but eventually they kind of, I wouldn't say agree, but you get an idea of what the final decision is going to be, okay? The strategies again for this type of listening: keep your notes for 3 speakers before the audio starts. So write speaker 1, speaker 2, speaker 3. You can also, as you're watching, note down the color of their t-shirts, or is it 1 boy and 2 girls, or is it 2 females and a man, whatever it is. So make sure that your 3 speakers are labeled so you remember. And it says here, label them according to the speaker position on screen as they're introduced. So maybe, the boy or the man with the blue shirt speaks first, then speaks the lady with the glasses, and the third person speaking is also a man, but he's wearing a green shirt or a green tie. Okay, so make sure you have some key indicators for you to remember who was speaking and what they were saying. While you're listening, identify the topic of the conversation. What exactly are they talking about? Identify how each speaker feels about the situation and why. Note what speakers agree and disagree with each other about, and then focus on what the speakers say. You will not be tested on visual details unrelated to the conversation, such as whether a character was wearing glasses, what color someone's shirt was, or which items were on top of a coffee table. So these are not the type of questions they will ask you, but it's always best to mention them in your notes so you remember the boy or the man with the glasses was saying this, and the girl with long hair was saying that. Okay. Use facial expressions and body language to help you identify the speaker's feelings and attitudes. This is very important because you're watching. You will be able to identify their feelings by the expressions and the body language that you see. After listening, pay very careful attention to the time. Give yourself roughly 30 seconds to answer each question, and then answer questions you feel confident about first. So don't just answer them in order. Glance through all the questions, and whatever you remember and the questions that you're very confident about, those are the ones you answer first. This is the last part 6, listening for viewpoints. This is about 8 minutes to listen to the audio and answer about 6 questions. The audio clip is about 3 minutes long, and there's just one speaker. So out of the 8 minutes, you're going to spend 3 minutes listening roughly to the audio. So that means you are left with 5 minutes for 6 questions. It is going to be a speech about, or it might be a speech about climate change and what can be done about it. It could be a presentation about the effects of a certain technological development. It could be a description or of a community issue and different proposed options for resolving it. The tone is going to be formal, not improvised. Information includes concepts, possibilities, and analysis. And the speaker will use low frequency and specialized language. So they're not going to be speaking at a high pitch, they're not going to be speaking too fast, but they will be using specific vocabulary for the topic that they're talking about. Before you listen, set up your notes before the audio starts. Of course, read the introductory statement for context clues. While you're listening, identify the issue under discussion. Identify who is mentioned, what their opinions are, and why. Take note of people's last names. You are more likely to hear last names once their full name is provided. Use paraphrase skills to keep notes brief. Answer questions you feel confident about first. Use context clues to determine whether unfamiliar words in the questions are positive or negative. Pay careful attention to the time and answer every question. And in this one and in all the others, please guess if you really have to. All right. Now we are going to look into other skills at a later stage, but I just wanted to do the listening with you today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and do subscribe to English or Canada, and I'll come back with the reading, speaking, and writing study packs. All right, so have a great day. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.